Now we come to a very, very important passage in the Bible, similar to John chapter 3 actually, when Jesus meets Nicodemus. It's the passage of the woman at the well in Samaria. John chapter 4, verses 1 to 26. Now Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that he was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, although in fact it wasn't Jesus who baptized, but his disciples. So Jesus left Judea and went back once more to Galilee. Now he had to go through Samaria. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Would you give me a drink?" His disciples by this time had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews did not associate with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you've nothing to draw with and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well and drank from it himself, as did all his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said, "Sir, give me this water, so that I won't get thirsty. I have to keep coming back to draw water." He said to her, "Go, call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You're right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you have now is not your husband. What you've just said is quite true." "Sir," the woman said, "I can see you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship should be in Jerusalem." "Woman," Jesus replied, "believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming, and has now come, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshippers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshippers must worship in the spirit and in truth." The woman said, "I know the Messiah is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us." Then Jesus declared, "I, the one speaking to you, am he." Whew, this is another biggie. Jesus deliberately went through the town of Sychar just to speak to this one woman. God had seen her in her struggles in life and had compassion on her and said to his son, "Pop along to Sychar, sit by the well and see what happens." Something like that. I don't know how God works in these circumstances, but sometimes a nudge is all you need. She had been married 5 times and hadn't bothered to marry her latest husband, but God still cared about her. She was probably an outcast in Samaritan society. There are clues here. She was at the well alone at noon because she would not have wanted to draw water where other women were there, because some of them may have had encounters with her before. She would have been notorious, had a reputation. And also remember, Jews and Samaritans did not get on very well at this time. So Jesus' disciples were surprised not only to see him talking to a Samaritan, but a woman as well, since it was unusual for men and women to talk in public. But Jesus didn't care about traditions. He recognized that the woman was looking for love, hence the 5 husbands. But she could never be happy, because romantic love ultimately can never satisfy. She was looking for something to worship. She was looking for something more than another man. And God knew this. And so Jesus points to the real place where she can get true love, the well of water welling up inside her. He uses the imagery of an endless supply of water to get to this point. And she tries to change the subject when he mentions the 5 husbands, kind of understandably really, because she would have been very embarrassed. But Jesus lovingly brings her back to worship, as if to say, you've had these 5 husbands, but don't worry about them at the moment. What I want to focus on is your desire for true love inside your heart. You desire to worship, and you've been struggling all your life. But true worship, in spirit and in truth, is the thing that ultimately can satisfy her. And it's ultimately only the thing that can satisfy you and me. Romantic love doesn't get there somehow. There's always a catch. Jesus uses a supernatural word of knowledge when he lovingly reveals her life to her, which definitely gets her attention. And it's an act of love because he shows that he knows about her and yet doesn't judge her. He doesn't condemn her. He cares. As he said to Nicodemus, I did not come into the world to judge the world and condemn it, but to save the world through me. And when he says, I, the one who's speaking to you, am he, I am the Messiah, it's clear as bell what he's claiming there. It's quite something. And no wonder the Pharisees were starting to get upset back in Jerusalem and other places. And once again, this scene is beautifully portrayed in the film The Chosen, the series. So I'd encourage you to see that if you can. Jesus is looking for spiritual people who will worship him in spirit and in truth. And if you have been looking for love in all the wrong places, remember his love can be a wellspring of eternal life welling up inside you that causes you to worship the Father in spirit and in truth and indeed leads you to eternal life as well.